Kind of running out of time. I would like to read a final piece for you from my forthcoming novel. It's called The Portrait of Adi Denton. It's quite a departure. It's a love story, but it does still have themes of social class and sexuality running through it. It's set in the 1920s in Paris. At that time, Paris was the absolute centre of the art world, and it was home to a huge number of expatriate, fabulously wealthy, British and American lesbian heiresses. They were escaping the confines of their controlling families in order to live a bohemian lifestyle, live as they wanted to. They were often patrons of the arts or publishers. Some of them were writers, poets, painters, sculptors. And my novel is set among that group. Many of the characters are actually based on real women of the period. But in amongst this sort of fabulous, unconventional society, I've thrown a working class girl called Adi Denton, short for Adelaide. She's escaping from a humdrum factory girl life in a Midlands town, and she takes a job, encouraged by her best mate Edward, as a lady's maid for a rich English lesbian writer and her partner. This couple are based on Radcliffe Hall and Una Troubridge. Radcliffe Hall famously wrote a book called The Well of Loneliness that was banned at the time but became a classic of lesbian literature. Through her job, Adi meets a young painter, another fabulously wealthy, rich heiress called Bron. And in spite of the huge social class divide, the two women are powerfully attracted to each other. And Bron has asked Adi if she will sit to have her portrait painted. The scene I'm going to read takes place at the home of a woman called Ramona Burns. She's based on Natalie Barney, who was a real woman and who was famous for the huge number of lovers that she had, and for the salons she held every Friday at her home on the Rue Gauche in Paris, right from the turn of the century, right up until the Second World War. And all in fact, the image behind me was actually taken at one of Natalie Barney's parties. This book is a work in progress, so I just thought that would give you some idea of the kind of shenanigans that went on at these do's. All the great artists and writers of the time would have turned up at these salons. People like Jean Cocteau, Colette, Ezra Pound, Ernest Hemingway, Scott Fitzgerald, Pablo Picasso, but mostly they were lesbian parties, and there were all sorts of carryings on going on. And in this scene, Adi has gone with her employers, and she's been called upon to waitress, basically, at the salon, under the eagle eye of the Ramona's housekeeper, Madame Chadorge. You're going to have to roll with the punches on this, I'm afraid, because I've set myself quite a difficult task. There's some French in it, so please forgive me if I make mistakes. It was difficult to move around the room. So many people were crammed into every corner. But Adi followed the example of Madame Chadorge, pushing sideways against people's backs and gently easing guests aside. They appeared not to notice the intrusion, though on more than one occasion, Adi could have sworn she felt a hand on her bottom. The women who had been kissing on the sofa had now disappeared, replaced by two others talking animatedly, one fat in a tight-fitting gentleman's dress suit with brilliant-eyed hair, the other with a mop of frizz and feline eyes. Adi thought they might be arguing and turned away towards the door. Then Bron came into the room. She was wearing a tailored suit and a tie. Her hair was short and swept back from her face in a thick crop. Adi's stomach flipped over. Bron squinted as she cast her eyes around the room, which had thinned a little. Adi tried unsuccessfully to catch her eye. So she poured a glass of champagne and made her way to the door where Bron was standing. Just as she was about to offer her the glass, an exquisite brunette in a dress which plunged to her navel and flirted skimpily across her breasts interceded, catching Bron's arm. "Bron, darling, how divine! I'd no idea you were in Paris." The brunette took Bron by the hand and pulled her deeper into the room. Aidy could only stare after them, feeling foolish and graceless. She looked down at her ill-fitting uniform and wanted only to disappear. As Madame Chadorge passed her, Aidy indicated through sign language and facial gesture that she needed to use the toilet. She had to compose herself, make sure her cap was on straight at least. Wandering lost through the untidy maze of corridors and rooms, Aidy opened first a door that turned out to be a broom cupboard. Then she went up to the second floor. Some of the doors were open, and in one of them was a dressing table. She went in and gazed at her reflection in the mirror. Her hair was long and not in the least bit fashionable. Would a bob suit her? She didn't think so. Edward always told her she was beautiful, but Aidy knew her nose was too big. Her cap was skewed, and she took it off and tidied her hair before pinning it back on. She did like her eyes. They were jet black, like her mum's, and she had good skin, although it wasn't what you call alabaster, more olive. She'd been taken for a foreigner on more than one occasion. Her dad had teased her mum about it and made jokes about the milkman and the butcher that had made her mum blush. Aidy smiled at the memory. "Pull yourself together, girl," she thought, and inspected her teeth for pits. Making her way back to the stairs, she heard voices coming from one of the rooms. The door was quite a foot ajar, and she looked in. All she could see in the flickering candlelight was the younger woman who'd been on the sofa earlier. She was naked now and manacled to the bed. Aidy's first impulse was to rush to the rescue, but she stopped herself in time. There was nothing in the woman's expression to suggest that she was not entirely complicit in her captivity. Aidy hastened down the stairs and back to her post, a new and provocative notion now branded on her imagination. The salon was stifling, but someone had mercifully opened the doors letting onto the garden to admit the evening air. Just in front of that, an area had been cleared as a makeshift stage, and Aidy pondered what more entertainment the day might hold. She caught sight again of Bron, but this time she held her feelings in check, though she did allow herself to admire her profile. Suddenly Bron turned as if she knew and looked directly at her. Aidy looked away flustered, but when she looked back, Bron's face had broken into a huge smile. Aidy could not help but smile back, stupidly blushing, then unable to stop a laugh breaking on her lips. The American woman, who'd been praising James Joyce earlier, tapped a spoon on the glass she was holding until the room quietened. "The 10th Muse," she announced grandly, to a murmur of delighted giggles around the room. A group of women holding hands and dressed in white robes with flowers in their hair entered through the open garden doors. They formed a circle and swayed lascivious to some imagined melody. Aidy scrutinised the assembly. Some guests were still talking quietly, but most looked on in rapt attention. Bron caught Aidy's arm. They again exchanged a smile as Bron raised her eyebrows and poked a surreptitious tongue into her cheek. Aidy laughed again. This time, though, Madame Chadorge had spotted Aidy and admonished her with a perishing look of indignation. Aidy straightened her face and shifted awkwardly. She hadn't meant to be rude. The apology she offered with her eyes was accepted by Madame Chadorge with a graceful nod. Complete silence preceded the entrance of Ramona. Her extravagant clothing now entirely fitted to the occasion. She held a lyre to her breast. Aidy was transfixed. Ramona waited a few seconds. Her words, when they came, poured like nectar. there was no hint of cynicism. Awed by her splendour, stars near the lovely moon cover their own bright faces when she is roundest and lights earth with her silver, began Ramona, as outside a cloud moved and a full moon lit the garden in timely order. The room erupted into clapping and cheering. Ramona laughed and bowed magnificently. This time, Lady's smile was of genuine admiration, and, she noticed, even Madame Chadorge dabbed a tear at the corner of her eye. The performance continued for another 15 minutes. The poetry was exquisite and rendered with perfect cadence. After the show, the party seemed to shift into a more intense phase. Ady continued offering food and drink and strained to overhear the conversation. She kept snatching odd sentences and tantalising bits of interchange, enough to discern that the 10th muse was one Sappho. She resolved to find a bookshop and buy herself a copy. Such flawless work deserved to be enjoyed at her leisure. I hope you've remembered our bargain, Ady. Ron was behind her. Ady spun round. Yes, of course, I wasn't sure if you were joking. I never joke about my work, Ron said earnestly. I think you'd make a fascinating study. Can you come at noon tomorrow? She handed Ady the corner of an envelope with an address scribbled almost illegibly in pencil. Appartement D, 22 Rue Chauguet, Saint-Michel. Ady read the address. I'll try, she said, and quickly handed Bron the glass of champagne she was holding as she saw Madame Chadorge approaching. The party had thinned out considerably, and their exchange had gone beyond that normally required for the situation. Je vais bientôt partir, Bron turned to the stern housekeeper, et je demandais où je pourrais trouver mon manteau et chapeau. Mais bien sûr, mademoiselle va vous accompagner tout de suite. J'espère que vous avez passé une agréable soirée, said Madame Chadorge. Ady looked from one to the other, mystified. Très, très agréable, en effet, merci. Bron smiled, raised her glass, and knocked back the champagne in one. Madame Chadorge went about her business, and Bron said to Ady, Well, mademoiselle, will you help me find my hat and coat? They walked into the passage, where a tangle of outerwear hung precariously from an ornate, dilapidated clothes rail. Bron caught the corner of her overcoat and tugged it out of the jumble, while Ady picked up the gentleman's Homburg hat that had obscured Bron's features the first time she had laid eyes on her from the drawing-room window in London. She handed it to Bron. You remembered my hat, said Bron, looking into her eyes. It's very distinctive, Ady replied and held her gaze. Ady helped Bron into the coat. It was of exquisite quality. She picked up Bron's scent of cedar and musk as she gently brushed the fibre from the shoulders, resisting the urge to touch the nape of her neck exposed above the collar. When they opened the door, the cold rushed in, and the Oriental man with the strange patterned head was there. He gestured across the courtyard to the main gate. Bron turned to Ady. Until tomorrow, she said, and raised her hat. As Ady closed the outer door, the woman who had been bound in the upstairs boudoir was coming down the stairs. Her paramour followed close behind. Ady waited for them to pass. The younger woman held an unfinished glass of champagne and, without looking up, she handed it to Ady. The older woman, though, smiled pleasantly. Thank you, my dear, she said with yet another American twang. Ady leaned against the wall and shook her head, bewildered. Then she looked down at the glass in her hand and knocked back the dregs in one blow, grimacing at the bitter taste of flat champagne.